Thank you all for sticking around to hear about an important legislative update and a project we've been working on for for the last several months. It's about stillbirth certificates, and even though exciting and stillbirth certificates don't belong in the same sentence, it actually is really exciting that we're working on this project because it's going to improve bereavement support for families who have had a stillbirth. Next slide. I won't go into detail on my story because we don't have time, but my son Liam was stillborn on his due date in 2016, and since then I have been working on improving bereavement support for families, as well as providing the support for families, especially marginalized populations like people of color and Spanish speakers. We do have to set some baseline definitions here because there's a lot of confusion around what these different certificate names are. So a birth certificate is issued when a baby is live born. That means a baby showing any signs of life. It doesn't matter if they live for 1 minute, 10 minutes, take one breath. They were born alive, they get a birth certificate. When that baby dies, a death certificate is issued. When a baby is stillborn, there's no birth certificate that's issued. A fetal death is the same thing as a stillbirth. It's also called an intrauterine fetal demise or an intrauterine fetal death. And you can see on this table here, when it happens at less than 20 weeks, that's called colloquially a miscarriage. Above 20 weeks is a stillbirth, or again, a fetal death. When a baby is stillborn, families are entitled to receive a certificate of stillbirth in the state of Illinois. However, most people don't realize that that type of birth certificate for stillborn babies even exists. We are working on some legislation to rename the certificate to the Certificate of Birth Resulting in Stillbirth, and we'll hopefully get to that later. If you want to go to the next slide, these are some examples. On the upper left-hand corner is a fetal death certificate. So currently, when a family's baby is stillborn, they receive a death certificate, and it's frankly insulting to be given a death certificate and not an equal certificate acknowledging the birth of your baby. The bottom one is Liam's, my son's certificate of birth, which was just a commemorative certificate. You know, they put his footprints on it. It's cute. It's nice. Thank you. But I want that validation that he existed, that he exists. State of Maryland example on the upper right-hand side is a certificate of birth resulting in stillbirth, and most states have some type of law entitling families to these types of certificates. Next slide. In Illinois, only 73 certificates have been issued in the 20 years since the law passed. On the right, you can see how many stillbirths are happening, and I'm really bad at math, so I don't know what that adds up to, but that's thousands of babies in the span of 4 years alone. Next slide. So what happened? Again, this law passed in 2003. Why have only 70-something certificates been issued in 20 years? Well, there was some massive miscommunication that happened. The law passed, and then somebody forgot to tell somebody about it, and henceforth, no one knows about it. There is some language in the law, as you can see. It says that prescribe and distribute a form for a certificate of stillbirth. That form doesn't exist. It was never made. And that the person who files the fetal death certificate, that's the one that's issued for purposes of this conversation for every baby who is stillborn, that same person should be the one assisting the family and filing for the certificate of stillbirth. Well, that's also not happening. Next slide. If you didn't get one, this one-pager explains what Liam's law is, what the amendment is to the existing law, updating some of the language, including some administrative requirements so that families are actually informed of the certificate of stillbirth. The great thing that's come out of this project is that we're raising awareness now, and lots of people are learning that the certificate of stillbirth does exist, so more families can start receiving that birth certificate for their babies who are stillborn now. Liam's law's bipartisan support. It's part of HB3. You can learn more about that as well. And there are currently about 50 sponsors on the bill. Unfortunately, it hasn't moved, but if we get to 60 sponsors, it will have to move. So please call your legislators and ask them to support HB3. There's a survey that we've issued across the United States to gauge what have been parents' experience with being told about a certificate of stillbirth in their respective state, to see what it looks like in other states. Are we the only ones not telling families this exists, or is this an issue across the entire United States? And the majority so far are saying, no, nobody told me this existed. We are looking at probably starting some type of subcommittee work to raise awareness about the existing legislation and how to access these certificates, as well as improve overall the perinatal bereavement processes, not only in hospitals, but on the community level as well, because some of you all are interacting with these families as soon as they have their babies, whether their babies were stillborn or live born. And yeah, I think that captures everything. Hopefully that was quick enough. I don't know if there's time for any quick questions. Otherwise, I'll stick around for a few minutes. All right, thank you all.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and if you have questions for Anna,